Let's get into it. Soul Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan and Evan Haffer, the CEO of Black Rifle Coffee. And in this clip, they're talking about Bill Maher. Joe has a lot of praise for Bill Maher. And then they start touching on Hollywood and what it takes to become one of Hollywood's elite, and what it takes not to just get into those positions, but what you have to do in order to maintain those positions. And they start talking about the little things that people have to do and have to say, which I really, really like. So let's get into that. Hit up IamCoachColin.com for all your Soul Not For Sale merch. We got some amazing stuff there. And let's hit this Joe Rogan clip real quick.
Because one of the things that people are learning through podcasts, when you talk about guys like Eric Weinstein or guys like Jordan Peterson or Sam Harrison, people want to hear people talk. There's the people that are above that 85 IQ. You know, what is it? 84% of the population? Yes. The people that are above, those fucking people want to hear how interesting, intelligent people are discussing ideas. Yeah. And you don't see any of that shit on TV. No. Except Bill Maher show. But even Bill Maher show, there's a lot of people talking over each other, and it's an hour. Everything's got to fit in an hour. It's on HBO. Which is why I think he's doing his own show. He's doing his own
it's like After Dark or something.
Club Random.
Yeah, okay,
Club
there
Random.
We go.
It's very good.
I've seen it.
It's very good. And he's really himself in that. Like the Bill Maher, like if you want to chill with Bill and have a drink, he really does a fantastic job of just being himself.
Isn't that interesting when you think about Bill Maher and his kind of outward appearance from his political point of view, which is typically going to be left.
Yeah.
And then guys that go on his show and they have this really complex, interesting conversation, but for a bunch of people, they won't even watch Bill because he's left. Right?
Yeah.
They won't even watch. So they're going to stick in their echo chamber. They're going to continue to kind of propagate out speaking points from either platform. Mm-hmm. And they're never going to go out and watch different things just based on a person's political view.
Yeah, but joining a political party or being in a political party, like ideologically in your head, is not good for you. No. It's bad for, like, there are a lot of things that people who are on the right believe that I agree with. And there's a lot of things that people on the left believe and I agree with. And I refuse to be a part of this left versus right thing. I think it's stupid. I think it's bad for us. I think it's a trap.
Yeah.
I think it's a really dumb trap in America. And Bill Maher says a lot of really wise shit. And he says a lot of shit about culture that goes against the ideology that he's a part of. He's as deep in the Hollywood system as is humanly possible. He's a political host on a show on HBO. I mean, that's like deep Hollywood.
Right.
You know, he knows where the sex parties are at.
Because he's probably the guy setting the pin.
Yeah, he knows who's wearing the goat mask. You know, like if there's a fucking Illuminati in Hollywood, that guy's. Meanwhile, you know, he does all these jokes in his monologue about transitioning kids.
Right.
About like, hey, maybe we shouldn't just break out right away. And I'm like, yo, Bill is going for it.
Yeah.
That because he never stopped being a comic. Bill Maher, out of all these guys that become hosts of talk shows, he never stopped just being a comic. He never stopped touring. He never stopped doing all of his live shows. Never stopped being a comic. That's what separates Bill. Because there's a lot of these guys. Look, man, you get a job like the host of The Tonight Show or something along those lines. That you are fucking set, baby.
Dude, that is
Let's
like...
go. I'm buying a Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean...
I got a house in Maui. You know, like you're balling out of control. And there's a lot of like pressure to keep that going and to appease the people that would make those decisions and to also be as marketable as humanly possible to everybody out there in the world so that you can maintain this job. So whether or not there's like verbal, why not they sit you down and say, hey, this is what you have to say. You support a woman's right to choose. You support immigration. You support, you know, racist, IDs are racist. Like, there's like things you have to say. You're with the aren't you, Jimmy? Like, I'm with the vaccine. Like, you have to fucking... They don't necessarily sit you down and do that, but you fucking know. Yeah, you fucking know.
I mean, it's unwitting or witting, essentially extortion to a certain degree, because you're saying if you don't cooperate, you're going to be on the streets.
And you're not going to get picked for stuff.
No.
Like, but it's a tyranny that, like, if there's one person or one group that has the overwhelming part of discerning who makes it or who doesn't make it, they have the ability to choose who's the rock.
Yeah.
They have the ability to choose.
Right.
They're going to put this guy in the movies. Because let me tell you something. As good as Tom Cruise is, and he's a great actor, as good as Brad Pitt is, he's a great actor. There's some unknown 28-year-old that can do exactly what they can 100%. Do right now. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of skill. It's not like boxing.
Right.
Like we don't know who the best boxer is. We fucking know who the best boxers are. You know, we watch them.
Right.
These guys are out there in like little plays and shit, and you have no idea how good they are because they don't get chosen yet. Mm-hmm. And there's thousands of them,
and they're all trying to go to the same spot with a very limited amount of slots for them to get into. And I mean, think about what they have to do.
Little window of time.
Yeah. Because you got to get in there while you're attractive, while your skin still looks good, or whatever. I mean, look at those guys. They're running it as far as they can. I mean, how old is Tom Cruise? Like 80?
He's 1,000 years old.
Yeah, he's a vampire. Like,
he looks
could be.
fucking great.
He looks awesome.
He
And
looks
he's still
great.
jumping out of planes. Like he's flying planes.
Broke
He's jumping out of
his
planes.
fucking ankle on a stunt, jumping between two buildings. There's a video of him
amazing.
shattering his ankle.
Yeah, like that guy. Regardless of all the crazy stuff that he said,
I think the crazy stuff he says is a good part of it. I think
you think so?
Yes. I think that's why he's so good. Listen,
like-
man, I swore off dating actresses when I was like 27. I was like, they're just too much work. It's just too crazy. Especially really good ones.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying if you're a really good actress, you have to be nuts, but boy, it would help. It would really help. Because they can lock into a role in some fucking insane way that, you know, like they're crying, screaming and crying. And nothing happened. But they're pretending. But you would think their mom just died right in front of them.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The ability to do that is nuts. And some people just have it. And there's a lot of them out there. And I would imagine if you're really good at that, like you don't think Daniel Day-Lewis is crazy.
Oh man, he strikes me as one. He
Strikes me as totally
like
crazy.
He also strikes me as fascinating.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What's going on in his brain, being able to compartmentalize emotion and do the things that he's done. Those scenes from There Will Be
Blood.
Yes. Holy
shit, dude.
Dude, when that's when he crushes that guy's skull in the bowling alley in his basement. That might be one of the single greatest scenes in movie history. When he's
intense.
He is so intense. He's so perfect at that role, and the camera angles and the way that they were they were feeding that to the audience was so fucking brilliant.
So good. I drink your milkshake.
Yeah. And he's like making the straw, like this, I'm putting my straw there. Like that guy is incredible.
He's incredible.
Have you had him on the show?
No, I don't even know if he does things
here we
like
go.
this.
So this is the part where they show somebody with their skull being so can't show that, but they're moving away from the point I even wanted to focus on. The whole thing, what that gentleman said, Evan, when he talks about it being like entrapment, that's exactly what it's like, because you fight forever to get into the position that you're in. If you're The Rock, you've fought for literally 20 some odd years to be in the position that you're in now. And if you say or do one thing that's out of line with what Hollywood believes, with the Hollywood ideology, you're out. That's it. You get branded as having a bad attitude. You're difficult to work with. Next thing you know, you don't get any calls. You get dropped from your talent agency. We've seen it time and time again with different celebrities who just say a certain thing, do a certain thing, refuse a certain thing, and that's it. They're done. It's wild. I love that they talked about who gets chosen, because that's a real thing, man. That's a real thing. You know, the fact that they bring up Bill Maher, the sex parties, and then who gets chosen. That people think that that's just wild. That's just eyes wide shut, weird stuff. That's real. That's very real. Whereas if you're not willing to do certain things behind closed doors, you don't get to move on to the next level and the next level and the next level. Straight up. Even right now, there is something that came out about P. Diddy. Just a bunch of allegations that have come out. But then also this high-level executive who was actually Diddy's mentor came out and said around the time when he first met Diddy, now I'm just doing the basic timelining here, he was dating men behind the scenes, which nothing wrong with that, but it just kind of shows that a young man wanted to move up in the world as an executive, and all of a sudden there was this older gentleman who was mentoring him, but then also admits that he was dating somebody secretly at the time. It's just weird stuff like that going on constantly. You know, it's funny. People look at Weinstein the same way they look at Epstein. They think that, oh man, glad that's over. It's like, no, that's the one that got caught. That's the one that passed away. That's the one that got canceled. That's it. You know, like the funny thing they say, well, not funny, but the thing they say about Weinstein is, you know, the women that came forward, those are just the women that came forward. There's a whole bunch of women who were like, no, I did what I had to do, and now I have a massive career, and I'm not jeopardizing the way that looks to come forward and speak on something that happened that I did. I'm not doing that. So the women who really benefited didn't even come forward. And you have to think, when you look at Hollywood now, it's like, who was it? Well, in a sense, it's all of them. They all have to do weird things like that. Whitney Cummings was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and she said that it was a thing she just knew. She even said on the podcast she was on recently that Harvey Weinstein came to a comedy club looking for her while she was trying to become, you know, a comedian, but also an actress and get into to television and everything, that he was looking for her. And she left early, and she was like, oh no, I don't know what to do, and blah, blah, blah. But she knew. She said when she got to Hollywood, it was just a known thing that you did that with that man and you got roles. Right? And now that he's gone, you think that behavior is just done? I don't think so. I myself have seen people who were not in a producer role, but close enough to it, lied about it, and coerced people into things. I've seen that. Well, I actually didn't see it myself. I was told about it secondhand, and it was part of it was one of the last films I was on, and I confronted a gentleman about it, and then the next thing you know, I'm difficult, and I'm difficult to work with, and all those fun things. You know, it's an interesting little world. I'm telling you, people are really chosen, and it's an industry where you cannot say no. You really can't say no to things. You can't say no to work. You haven't seen your kids. You haven't been around your family or friends and anything in months and months and months. And you think you're going to be off for a good 5 weeks so you can catch up on life. And it's like somebody comes to you and offers you work. You can't say no. If you say no, it's like, all right, well, I guess you're out of the queue. And that's it. They just toss you aside. It's a wild industry, man. Wild industry. That's why, like, from my previous experience, when I look at Joe Rogan and people are like, oh, he's controlled and this and that, it's like, I would have to know by who, because in Hollywood, for him to do what he's doing in terms of not being on any shows or films or anything, like not even a book, not even like nothing, they don't take kindly to that. They don't like that at all. You would be blackballed just from that. You got into the position to be an actor. We've given you roles. You took the money from those roles, and now you're not continuing. They wouldn't like that at all. So for people who think he's controlled, not by Hollywood, I don't know. Maybe there's another agency of some kind that is, but it's definitely not by Hollywood whatsoever. Interesting talk, man. I'm telling you, this guy, this Evan Haffer, he brings out a side in Joe. I like it. All of a sudden with Joe, with Evan, he's not holding back on much of anything. I'm halfway through the podcast. I'm loving it right now. If you want a timestamp, if you've listened to this point, you deserve a timestamp. It was actually 9 minutes 20 seconds to 17 minutes 10 seconds, just so you know. Very interesting stuff. And the last thing I'll bring up when it comes to Hollywood and why these guys have to say what they say and do what they do, aside from all the dark stuff, there is a business side to it as well. There's ESG scores. And I think the same way that a company has an ESG score, you could look at The Rock and say that The Rock is a $1 billion company. He's a $1 billion brand, right? He's not a Marvel brand. He's not a Netflix brand. He's not any of that. He's not a Fast and Furious brand. He is his own brand. When he comes onto a movie, it's The Rock. You're getting The Rock experience, and people pay for that. They pay big money for that. And I think the same way these companies have ESG scores and they have to do certain things in terms of diversity and appearing a certain way, embracing certain cultures and ideologies, I think these celebrities have to do the exact same thing. I really do. And I think they're told to do that from the highest ups, because Hollywood doesn't work on nothing. Hollywood doesn't work on its own money. It's working on someone else's money. And if they want a big infusement of cash to go and make a bunch of movies, they have to abide by within the ESG, there's a lot that has to happen, right? What's this other one that I had here? Yeah, this one. So Hollywood firm launches LGBTQ ESG index. So if you don't know what that is, right, they have a certain score. So what is this LGBTQ ESG index going to be? Well, it's going to be probably you have to have a certain amount of people of color. You probably have to have a certain amount of people that have certain gender and sexual preferences and things of that nature. There's quotas to meet. You have to look like you have a certain scale of diversity in order to access the money. So if you're not willing to do it, I mean, Larry Fink already said this in terms of business and corporations, and BlackRock invests in the movie industry just like they invest in everything else. He said you have to force behaviors. So if people aren't willing to do certain things, hire certain people, change the color of a mermaid, things of that nature. If they're not willing to do that, change the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. If they're not willing to do that, they don't get the money. And it's not just like, oh, that movie doesn't get made. Those people who make the movies are subjugated to the same blackballing. So now it's like, oh, they didn't want to play ball. Well, they don't get to make movies now. Who wants to play ball? Oh, all of you do? Okay, well, we have $500 million for you guys. Let's see what we could make. So I think that's a part of it too. I think back in the day, it was just about being chosen by, whoever. And I think nowadays it's getting to the point where, like Larry Fink said, they're forcing behavior. Hollywood courts Wall Street. Like, whoa. Wall Street's ESG investors, mainly with film and television messages, not carbon offsets. So this right here is talking about them actually controlling the message. When you go into this actual article, it's from the Hollywood Reporter. If you type in like Hollywood Reporter ESG, you'll probably find this article. But that's the kind of thing that's happening, right? So even at the lower part of this, if you care to hear about it, it says, as Disney, Comcast, Paramount, and Fox aim for a piece of the $150 billion in annual eco-friendly investments, sustainability has proven itself an opportunity to show that they care through their content. So basically what they're saying right there, like, look at that. There's $150 billion. I said $500 million. Shows what I know, right? So you got almost $250 billion. And it's like, what do I have to do to access that? Well, we need you to make whatever movie you're making, just make sure it has a layer of people who care about climate change. That's what we need. And it's like, okay, all right. Make it so it has an air of, black rights, let's make it like that. Okay. Make sure it has a layer of LGBTQ. Okay. Make sure it has all three. Okay. That's what you're going to do, because you just want to make your movie so you can make your profit, and also so you can have that badge of honor that you've made another movie and that it was successful. It's just like a whole chain of things. So this ESG just added another layer to the things that people have to obey, if I could just say that. But anyways, guys, like the episode, subscribe to the podcast, hit up IamCoachColin.com. You will be pleasantly surprised. We have a lot of great stuff on there. And other than that, I am out.